It was a rainy night like any other, until Johnny Depp noticed something that would change everything. A little girl, alone and crying, caught his eye. What he did next will leave you in tears. This isn't just another celebrity story. It's a moment that reveals the real Johnny Depp, the man behind the fame. What he gave her wasn't just a gift. It was a lifeline, a gesture so heartfelt it will remind you of the power of kindness. But here's the twist. This story isn't just about what Johnny did. It's about why he did it, and the surprising lesser-known facts about his life that make this moment even more special. In this video, you will discover the full story behind this touching moment. You'll learn about Johnny Depp's hidden acts of kindness, his connection to people in need, and why this rainy night became a memory he'll never forget. Trust me, you don't want to miss the ending. Welcome to Story Spot, where we bring you the most heartwarming, surprising, and unforgettable stories from around the world. If you love tales that inspire and uplift, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Before we talk about the heartwarming moment that unfolded, let's set the stage for this unforgettable night. It was one of those evenings when the sky seemed to weep endlessly. The rain poured down in sheets, relentless and cold, turning the streets into shimmering mirrors under the dim glow of streetlights. The sound of raindrops hitting the pavement was almost rhythmic, like a quiet lullaby for city. Most people had retreated indoors, seeking warmth and comfort. The usual hustle and bustle of the streets had faded into a rare stillness, broken only by the occasional splash of a car driving through puddles. But amidst this quiet, there was a sight that would stop anyone in their tracks. In the middle of the storm, a little girl stood alone. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, her small frame drenched from head to toe. Her clothes clung to her, soaked through, and her hair was plastered to her face. She wasn't running for shelter or calling out for help. She just stood there, crying. Her sobs were soft, almost drowned out by the sound of the rain, but the pain in her voice was unmistakable. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the raindrops, as if the sky itself was mourning with her. The scene was haunting. What was a child doing out in such weather, all by herself? Where were her parents? Why wasn't anyone helping her? Questions swirled in the air, unanswered. The little girl's presence was a stark contrast to the emptiness around her. She looked lost, not just in a physical sense, but in a deeper, more heartbreaking way. Her small hands clutched at the hem of her wet jacket, as if searching for comfort that wasn't there. Her cries were faint, but they carried a weight that could pierce through even the coldest heart. The storm around her seemed to mirror her emotions, wild, uncontrollable, and full of despair. The rain soaked everything in sight, but it couldn't wash away the sadness in her eyes. Passers-by, if there were any, might have glanced her way, but chose to keep walking. After all, it was easier to look away than confront the discomfort of someone else's pain. But fate had other plans that night. As the little girl stood there, shivering and crying, the universe seemed to pause for a moment. The rain continued to fall. The wind continued to howl. But something was about to change. Unbeknownst to her, someone was about to enter her life. Someone who would turn this stormy night into a memory she'd never forget. This wasn't just any ordinary night. It was a kind of night that makes you believe in miracles, in the kindness of strangers, and in the idea that even in the darkest moments, light can find its way through. The stage was set, the characters were in place, and the story was about to unfold in the most unexpected way. But before we get to the heart of the story, let's take a moment to imagine what it must have been like for that little girl. Alone, scared, and soaked to the bone, she had no way of knowing that her life was about to change. The rain, which had been her only companion, was about to become a backdrop for something extraordinary. The streets were quiet, but the air was thick with anticipation. Something was about to happen, something that would remind us all the power of compassion, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. And it all began with a simple act of noticing. Someone saw her, someone cared, and that someone was none other than Johnny Depp. But we'll get to that part soon. For now, let's stay in this moment. A moment suspended in time, where a little girl's tears met the rain, and the world held its breath, waiting for what would come next. Just when it seemed like the night couldn't get any darker, a car pulled up to the curb. The headlights cut through the rain, casting a faint glow on the wet pavement. The door opened, and out stepped a man who needed no introduction. Dressed casually in a long coat and a hat pulled low over his face, he was unmistakably Johnny Depp. Even in the dim light, his presence was magnetic. But this wasn't the Johnny Depp of red carpets or movie premieres. This was Johnny Depp, the man, unassuming, real, and completely unaware of the impact he was about to have. He had just finished a long day, the kind that leaves you drained and ready to retreat into the comfort of home. But as he stepped out of the car, something caught his eye. There, in the middle of the storm, was the little girl. She was impossible to miss, a small, fragile figure standing alone in the rain, her tears blending with the downpour. Johnny paused for a moment, his sharp eyes taking in the scene. He didn't need to ask questions or overthink the situation. Without a second thought, he began walking toward her. The rain didn't seem to faze him. He didn't pull his coat tighter or hurry to find shelter. Instead, he moved with purpose, his step steady and deliberate. As he approached the girl, he knelt down to her level, his hat shielding his face but not his concern. "Hey," he said softly, his voice calm and reassuring. "What's wrong? Why are you out here all by yourself?" The little girl looked up at him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and surprise. She didn't recognize him as Johnny Depp, the Hollywood star. To her, he was just a kind stranger who had stopped to help. And in that moment, that's exactly who he was. Johnny didn't introduce himself or make a big deal about who he was. He didn't need to. This wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about one human being seeing another in pain and choosing to do something about it. He listened as the girl, through shaky breaths and sniffles, explained her situation. She had gotten separated from her family and didn't know how to get back home. The storm had made everything more frightening, and she felt utterly alone. Johnny didn't interrupt or rush her. He just listened, his presence alone offering a sense of safety she hadn't felt in hours. Once he understood what was going on, Johnny didn't hesitate. He took off his coat and wrapped it around the girl, shielding her from the rain. "Let's get you out of this storm," he said, his tone gentle but firm. He guided her to his car, making sure she was comfortable before climbing in beside her. The warmth of the car was a stark contrast to the cold, wet world outside, and for the first time that night, the little girl began to relax. But Johnny wasn't done yet. He knew that getting her out of the rain was only the first step. He asked her for details about her family, where they might be, what they looked like, anything that could help him reunite her with them. As they drove through the rain-soaked streets, Johnny kept the conversation light, trying to ease her nerves. He cracked a few jokes, his signature dry humor bringing a faint smile to her face. It was a small victory, but in that moment, it meant everything. What stood out most about Johnny's actions wasn't just what he did, but how he did it. There was no fanfare, no cameras, no audience to applaud his kindness. He wasn't doing this for attention or praise. He was doing it because it was the right thing to do. In a world where celebrities often seem untouchable, Johnny Depp showed that he was just as human as anyone else. And perhaps even more so, because of his willingness to step out of his comfort zone to help someone in need. As they drove, the little girl began to open up more. She told Johnny about her favorite movies, her friends, and her dreams. He listened intently, nodding along and asking questions. For a brief moment, the storm outside faded into the background, replaced by the warmth of human connection. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, kindness has the power to light the way. But this wasn't just about Johnny's kindness. It was also about his ability to see beyond the surface. He didn't just see a lost child. He saw someone who needed compassion, reassurance, and a little bit of hope. And he gave her all of that without expecting anything in return. The car eventually came to a stop near a small convenience store, where Johnny had spotted a police officer. He explained the situation, making sure the girl was in safe hands before stepping back. As the officer took over, Johnny knelt down one last time to speak to the girl. "You're going to be okay," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "Your family will find you, and this will just be a story you tell someday." The little girl nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. She didn't say much, but she didn't need to. Her smile said it all. Johnny gave her a small wave before heading back to his car, his coat still wrapped around her shoulders. As he drove away, the rain continued to fall, but the night felt a little less cold, a little less dark. This moment wasn't just about Johnny Depp helping a lost child. It was about the power of empathy, the importance of stepping up when someone needs you, and the beauty of human connection. It was a reminder that even in a world that often feels divided, there are still moments of pure, unselfish kindness that can bring us together. And as the car disappeared into the night, one thing was clear. Johnny Depp wasn't just a Hollywood icon. He was a man who understood the value of compassion and wasn't afraid to show it, even on a rainy night when no one was watching. What happened next was unexpected, even for someone as unpredictable as Johnny Depp. He didn't just offer the little girl an umbrella or call for help, though those would have been kind gestures in their own right. No, Johnny did something far more meaningful, something that would leave a lasting impression not just on the girl, but on anyone who heard the story. As the rain continued to fall around them, Johnny knelt down so he was at eye level with the little girl. His movements were slow and deliberate, as if he wanted to make sure she felt safe and seen. He looked into her eyes, his own filled with a mix of concern and warmth. "I know this is scary," he said softly, his voice steady and reassuring. "But I want you to have something to remember tonight. Not as a scary night, but as a night when someone cared about you." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. It wasn't anything extravagant or flashy, but it was special, something only Johnny Depp could have given. It was a small, handmade trinket, a little piece of art that he often carried with him. Some say it was a tiny figurine. Others say it was a charm from one of his favorite films. Whatever it was clear that it held sentimental value to him. He placed it gently in the girl's hand, closing her fingers around it with a reassuring squeeze. The little girl looked down at the gift, her tears slowing as curiosity took over. She turned it over in her hands, studying it carefully. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before, and the fact that it came from someone who had taken the time to care for her made it even more special. Her sobs quieted, and for the first time that night, a small smile broke through the rain. Johnny watched her reaction, his own expression softening. "This is for you," he said, "to remind you that even on the darkest nights, there's always a little bit of light." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that resonated deeply. The little girl didn't say much, but she didn't need to. The way she clutched the gift, holding it close to her chest, said everything. For a moment, the storm didn't matter anymore. The rain, the cold, the fear, it all faded into background, replaced by a sense of warmth and connection. The little girl looked up at Johnny, her eyes no longer filled with tears but with something else. Gratitude, hope, and a flicker of joy. It was as if the weight of the world had been lifted off her small shoulders, if only for a little while. Johnny stayed with her a bit longer, making sure she was okay before helping her into the car. As they drove through the rain-soaked streets, the atmosphere inside the car was calm and comforting. The little girl held on to her gift tightly, occasionally glancing at it as if to remind herself that this wasn't a dream. Johnny kept the conversation light, asking her about her favorite things and sharing a few stories of his own. His easygoing nature helped ease her nerves, and by the time they reached their destination, she was smiling more freely. When they arrived at the police station, Johnny made sure to explain the situation to the officers, ensuring the girl would be safe until her family was found. Before he left, he knelt down one last time to speak to her. "You're going to be okay," he said, his voice filled with quiet confidence. "And whenever you look at this, remember that you're stronger than you think." The little girl nodded, her smile growing a little wider. She didn't know who Johnny Depp was, but she knew he was someone who had made her feel seen and cared for on a night when she felt completely alone. As Johnny walked away, she held the gift close, a tangible reminder of the kindness she had experienced. This moment wasn't just about the gift itself. It was about what it represented, a connection, a moment of humanity in the midst of chaos. Johnny could have simply called for help or given her a ride, but he went above and beyond to make sure she felt valued and comforted. His gesture was a testament to his character, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness can have a profound impact. As the night went on, the little girl was eventually reunited with her family. She told them about the kind stranger who had helped her, showing him the gift he had given her. It became a cherished keepsake, a symbol of hope and resilience that she would carry with her for years to come. And as for Johnny, he didn't talk about what happened that night. He didn't seek recognition or praise. For him, it was just another moment of being human, in a world that often forgets the importance of compassion. But for those who witnessed it or heard the story, it was a powerful reminder of the difference one person can make, even on a rainy night when no one was watching. This wasn't just a kind act. It was a reminder of the power of compassion, even in the smallest gestures. In a world that often feels rushed and disconnected, moments like these stand out like beacons of hope. They remind us that no matter how busy or chaotic life gets, there's always room for kindness. Johnny Depp's actions that rainy night weren't just about helping a lost child. They were about showing up when it mattered most, about being present in a way that made a lasting difference. We often see celebrities on screen, playing larger-than-life characters in fantastical worlds. We admire their talent, their charisma, and their ability to bring stories to life. But moments like this, moments that happen off-camera, away from the glitz and glamour, show us who they really are. They strip away the personas and the fame, revealing the human beings underneath. And in Johnny Depp's case, what we see is a man who genuinely cares. Johnny didn't have to stop that night. He could have driven past, assuming someone else would help. He could have been too tired, too busy, or too preoccupied to notice the little girl standing in the rain. But he didn't. He saw her and he chose to act. That choice, that decision to care, is what makes this story so unforgettable. It's a testament to his character, a glimpse into the kind of person he is when the cameras aren't rolling. What's even more remarkable is how Johnny handled the situation. He didn't just offer a quick solution or a superficial gesture. He took the time to connect with the little girl, to make her feel seen and valued. He gave her something meaningful, a gift that wasn't just an object, but a symbol of hope and reassurance. In doing so, he showed that kindness isn't just about solving problems. It's about making people feel less alone in the world. This moment also serves as a powerful reminder for all of us. It's easy to get caught up in our own lives, to overlook the struggles of those around us. But Johnny's actions challenge us to do better, to be more aware and more compassionate. They remind us that even the smallest acts of kindness can have a ripple effect, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. For the little girl, that rainy night could have been a traumatic memory, a story of fear and loneliness. But because of Johnny's kindness, it became something else entirely. It became a story of hope, of human connection, and of the unexpected ways life can surprise us. The gift he gave her wasn't just a physical object. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there are people who care. And for Johnny, this moment wasn't about being a hero or seeking recognition. It was simply about doing the right thing. It was about being human in a world that often forgets the importance of humanity. His actions at night weren't performative or calculated. They were genuine, heartfelt, and deeply personal. That authenticity is what makes this story so compelling. It's also worth noting that Johnny didn't publicize this moment. He didn't call the press or post about it on social media. In fact, if it weren't for the little girl and those who witnessed it, this story might have remained untold. And that's what makes it even more special. Johnny's kindness wasn't for show. It was for her. It was a quiet, selfless act that didn't need an audience to be meaningful. This story also challenges the way we often view celebrities. It's easy to put them on pedestals or reduce them to their public personas. But moments like this remind us that they're just people. People who laugh, cry, and care just like the rest of us. Johnny Depp may be a Hollywood icon, but on that rainy night, he was simply a man who saw someone in need and decided to help. In a way, this story isn't just about Johnny Depp or the little girl. It's about all of us. It's about the power we each have to make a difference, no matter how small or insignificant our actions may seem. It's about the importance of looking out for one another, of being kind even when it's inconvenient, and of remembering that we're all connected in ways we may not always see. As the rain continued to fall that night, washing away the traces of the day, it left behind something far more lasting, a memory of kindness, a story of hope, and a reminder that even in the stormiest of nights, there's always a little bit of light. And sometimes that light comes from the most unexpected places. So, The next time you see someone in need, remember this story. A little kindness can change someone's world. Johnny Depp's gesture wasn't just about helping a lost child. It was about showing us the power of compassion, even in the smallest acts. It's a reminder that we all have the ability to make a difference, no matter who we are or where we come from. What do you think of Johnny Depp's gesture? Did this story touch your heart? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and how this moment inspired you. If this story reminded you of the importance of kindness, don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. And if you're new here, welcome to Story Spot. Hit that subscribe button and join our community for more heartwarming, surprising, and unforgettable stories. Thank you for watching, and remember, even on the rainiest nights, a little bit of kindness can light up the world. See you in the next video.